Hellenistic art not only permanently changed art's DNA, it also shaped many of the movements we know today. Uncovered by German archaeologists at the end of the 19th century, the artworks now can be seen in museums around the world, and now it has found a new home in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. To talk about the Hellenistic kingdoms of the ancient world exhibition and the history of the artworks, we're now joined by Dr. Thomas Zimmermann from the Department of Archaeology at Kent University. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Can you give us an overview about the artifacts during the Hellenistic period?
Oh, wow. Well, where to start with? Basically, the Hellenistic period covers the final centuries BC, so 3rd to 1st century BC, and it's considered to be one of the most splendid periods for architecture, art, philosophy, literature, and artworks in general. Actually, most people which have not such a keen interest in archaeology, but are just randomly interested in ancient life or ancient history, most of the things they know actually come from this very period, from the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st century BC. Artworks, as you mentioned already, are scattered all over the world in different museum collections. Some of the most famous items from this period, apart from the Pergamon altar, of course, is the Laocoon group in the Vatican Museum collections, or in the Glyptothek collections in the Munich Museum. It's the Barberini found, and most important, one of the best known ancient artifacts, also known to the wider public, the famous Rosetta Stone, which allowed for the decipherment of ancient hieroglyphs, of Egyptian hieroglyphs, written in hieroglyph with a hieroglyphic inscription, with a Demotic inscription, and ancient Greek, actually comes from the Hellenistic period, from the time of Ptolemy V in ancient Egypt.
Mr. Zimmermann, do you find it ironic that even though the Pergamon is located in Turkey, that it was actually discovered in Germany?
Well, it's less ironic than actually a cultural and historical reality, which of course triggers off important and controversial questions nowadays, especially here for Turkey, of course. Top notch in the agenda is the repatriation of artifacts which originally come from Turkish grounds, from Anatolia. And the efforts of Turkish politics to bring back these things is, of course, something that is important, and it's sure enough justified. But we have to see all these developments in the bigger historical context. So what happened in the 19th century? We have the late Ottoman Empire, and we have researchers from France, from England, and from Germany doing research here, starting early excavations, amongst other places in Pergamon, of course. And in that case, Karl Humann, who started the excavation there in the late 19th century, I think in 1878, had an official permit to work there, and also an official permit to transfer the material, to transfer the artifacts abroad to Germany. There was at that point no cultural heritage preservation law. Osman Hamdi Bey, just to give you an important catchword here, who became a very, very close friend of Karl Humann. He was the first one to draft such an important law, the Azari Attika Nizamname, it's called, which should prevent the trafficking of ancient artifacts abroad. But at that point, it was still an official, it was a legal procedure that these things were transferred to Europe under the auspices of the late Ottoman rule of the Ottoman Empire.
Well, if we move on to the Hellenistic period in general, who are some of the up and running historical figures that had a great effect on the Hellenistic period?
Oh, well, where to start with? Of course, the well-known protagonists of this age, starting with Philip II, the father of Alexander, who later on became the Great. However, one sees a very interesting discrepancy between politics in the Hellenistic age, which often, well, we could describe them as a row of chaos and mayhem. After Alexander's early death in 323 BC, the War of the Diadochi started with regional skirmishes, with war fighting amongst the successors of Alexander and the realm. So it was a very politically spoken, a very chaotic period.
Right.
And very few of the political protagonists died a natural death. Most of them died in battle,
Yeah.
or were assassinated, were murdered, sometimes at a very young age. There's an ancient source
well, I'm going to have to interrupt you, Mr. Zimmerman.
One of the offsprings had the big luck to reach the age of 13. On the other hand, we have the flourishing of arts, we have the flourishing of philosophy especially, all the well-known philosophers which shaped the outlook of philosophy as it is also understood in modern times. The Cynics, the Epicureans, Plato and the like, they were childs of their times. They were
Great. Dr. Thomas Zimmerman,
and
thank
worked
you.
and left their mark in the Hellenistic age.
Thank you very much for the information, Dr. Thomas Zimmerman from Bilkent University.